Okay. Let's imagine for a second that 2,000 years ago there was somebody who had some message that was actually accurate and of some use. So what? If it's something that we haven't yet discovered or rediscovered, okay, it might be interesting to know, but it would still need to be validated. But the pursuit of attempting to find hidden secret meaning in ancient texts is one that I find just mind-numbingly time-wasting, because it's predicated on the idea that ancient peoples had some insight that we have since lost, and I find that patently absurd.
And it seems like a lot of the different religions, even like a lot of the quotes from like Muhammad and Christ are actually like really similar, and
well, Islam is a derivative religion from Judaism and borrowed from Christianity.
It's also derivative in the sense that they were all created by people who were roughly similar, trying to explain similar things under similar circumstances. And it's no surprise at all that the further in time you go back to these ancient books, the more wrong they were about the nature of reality. And as you get closer and closer to the modern era, they begin to have, go ask a Muslim to explain to you how the Quran is absolutely correct in keeping with science, and then do the same thing with an Old Testament advocate and compare the two. Mm-hmm. The Quran's going to come out ahead, and both of them look embarrassingly pathetic in comparison to what we actually know. It's the chewing gum fetus nonsense. Well, how could they have known that 700 years ago? Well, I don't know. Maybe women were still having miscarriages 700 years ago. And maybe these people who successfully bred and domesticated animals might have seen, underdeveloped fetuses in different animals, and then saw one in the idea. It's like people have this thought that until the day they were born, nobody knew anything.
Right.
That everybody who came before them couldn't look around at reality and come to some, understanding of it. And yet we are all here standing on the feet or on the heads of those that came before us. But anyway, Jason, I got full lines. I got to let you go.
Okay. And thanks, guys. And I just want to say sometimes people's conclusions, I've talked to Christians and so forth, and I've given them good evidence, but it's almost like they have their conclusions already, and it's tough to they're not really. It totally stifles the readiness to look at the merit of your evidence, or other points of view. It's just I guess egocentric or something.
Well, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.
I haven't finished reading it yet, so I can't possibly recommend it. But I'm reading a book that deals with this issue of
show it.
Not yet.
Okay.
What people believe that they know, and why they believe they know it, and how they can believe things in the face of strong evidence to the contrary. And to just do one quick example from the book is the Challenger experiment, where after the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded, a professor had a little over 100 of his students do a handwritten journal entry that he kept where they described where they were when they found out, what their feelings were, and different specifics about the events. And then 2.5 years later, these same students were interviewed and asked
the same
questions. And 2.5 years later, they were most of them, 75 to 80% or so, were convinced that their recollection at that time was accurate. And in reality, in comparison, shockingly few, around 10%, were actually accurate. 25% were dramatically different from what they had originally written. And in at least one case, the student was handed his original paper because his current memory of this was so different from his previous memory that he was handed his handwritten previous memory, and he said, yes, that's my handwriting, but that's not what happened. Now,
so the point is that you can be sure about something that's false, right?
Yeah, even when I can't imagine much better evidence to be presented. If I had a memory in my head of something that happened, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 years ago on the show, if I had a memory of a particular conversation and it was vivid, and then somebody said, no, here you go, and then played me back a video clip, there's no way I could say, well, that's me, But that's not what happened. I think that
I think you're being sure of your sureness now.
I realize that we're particularly digging a little catch-22 type thing here, but I think that there are different mentalities, and one thing that's critical is this unflinching adherence to the evidence. I made a conscious decision that I gave a damn about truth, that I wanted to have a view of reality that was demonstrably correct, that I was going to follow evidence where it led instead of leading evidence where I wanted it to go. And therefore, if somebody gave me that video clip, I would have to say, I've been wrong in my recollection this time. Clearly, that's what happened. And I would like to think that most people would do that, but I understand, based on this experiment and several others like it, that there is some segment of the population that would deny that. And it's not just, some hardcore schizophrenic who is divorced from reality. Normal people who you wouldn't suspect of anything would say, well, clearly you doctored that footage. There are clips of this show on YouTube that people think we edited. Now, first of all, as a reminder, we don't put clips up on YouTube. Fans of the show go through and find particular segments that they like, and they post it. And so there is a clip where I have this conversation with this guy, and it's going along relatively well, and then it ends with something like, I'm going to come down there and punch you in the face, or something like that.
Very popular clip for some strange reason.
And we had at least one person claim that's an edited clip, because this person was a clear, good representative of the Christianity that they accepted, and was presenting the arguments as they would, and was in complete agreement with them. And then this, I'm going to punch you in the face, comes out of nowhere. So she thinks we added that to make this Christian look bad. No, the Christian already looked bad to everybody else. He just began to look bad to you when he said he was going to punch me. So we sent her to the original, unedited, here's the full-length TV show. You can go and watch that segment. And she still was not completely convinced, but was a little less accusational about it. So. We got Stephen from North Carolina. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, I just got this little piece of information I got from a creationist a couple of days ago. It's about polonium radio halos.
Yeah.
Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, about Robert Gentry and his research on finding it from primordial rocks and saying proof of an instant creation.
Well, fill us all in, because I've never heard of this. Sorry.
All right, yeah. Polonium just has a very short half-life, and he says that he found it in some primordial igneous rocks.
Okay.
And it's just like igneous rocks take a while to form. And
okay. So the polonium shouldn't be there given its half-life, right? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for filling me in. So this is casting doubt on radiometric dating. Is that the goal here, or what's going on?
No. Basically, this should be called When Physicists Try to Do Geology. Because Gentry's a physicist and not a geologist. And he doesn't present very good information. He uses samples that people haven't had a good opportunity to verify, using geologic methods to determine the dates of these. And he tries to build his own model of radiometric dating in order to make the universe appear, or make the Earth appear younger than the geologic standards. And one of the huge problems with his particular method that doesn't wash is that in order for it to be true, the half-life, the decay rate for polonium has to have remained constant for this entire time, while every other radioactive element used to have a higher half-life and has since slowed down. And that's what has to happen in order to make his scheme work. That there is this one element that has remained constant while the rest of them have somehow changed. So basically, he's willing to toss out every piece of reliable geological evidence, every piece of evidence that has allowed us to confirm the reliability of radiological dating, except for the one that supports his hypothesis. It's I know there's
It sounds like a giant mind game.
There's an article about this on Talk Origins that I'd read before, which I pulled up a few minutes ago. So for those of you who thought I had all that off the top of my head, I hate to shatter your illusions. If you go to talkorisins.org/FAQS/PO-HALOS/gentry.html, you can find a thorough article that completely refutes Gentry's polonium halos hypothesis.